Today we are talking about the 3 misconceptions about lingerie sewing and why you might hesitate to start sewing lingerie. I am Alison and I worked for the House of Chanel as a seamstress for 6 years. I then created my own lingerie brand called Atelier 1904, and following that I obviously write the French boudoir sewing courses to pass on all the expertise I learned in Parisian sewing workshops, truly in the great fashion houses, and to convey it through courses and easy, accessible patterns for beginners. So right away we dive into the heart of the matter of the biggest misconceptions about lingerie sewing. It's true that when we talk about lingerie sewing, you imagine this kind of model with underwires, padding, cups, hooks, and lots of little things that make you say, oh my God, it looks so complicated. And it's true that if you refer to the models you find in stores, I myself did an internship in a hosiery factory at the time, so I can clearly see all the steps, and you can see the super technical steps to get a store-bought bra. So you get the impression that in fact the sewing techniques are super complicated, that you need special machines, that constructing a bra is complicated. So if we base ourselves on store-bought bras, yes, it's true that it seems complicated, but you can very well make simple models, especially with sewing training, where in fact we will simplify, we will remove everything that is complicated in a store-bought bra, and in fact we will keep only the essentials. So you can very well make, for example, this kind of bralette, but I'll put others in the description, triangle bralettes, bralettes without underwire, without padding, and it's possible to have support without underwire to simply make a simple model that is somewhat constructed like a garment and for which you only need a household sewing machine. So know that at Boudin Francais, all lingerie patterns are designed to be sewn with just a household sewing machine. All you need is the straight stitch, the zigzag stitch, and the multi-point zigzag stitch. You know, that kind of little Z that is made with several lines. It's much stronger and much prettier than a regular zigzag stitch. So there are some who sometimes ask me, yes, but without underwire, without padding, I won't feel supported. So ask yourself, in your sports bras, do you have padding? Do you have underwire? It's actually just the cut and the elasticity of the fabric that makes you feel very supported in a sports bra. I also have the example of vintage bras where there weren't all these things that there are now. We all have the same breasts. It looks like 2 shells, 2 balls. It's not always very pretty either. Well, vintage bras were constructed in such a way that you had support with just a good suitable cut without necessarily needing everything we find in bras now, which is actually just practical. They are somewhat models that haven't really changed for years, except for the few that do change. But otherwise, the essential structure of the bra doesn't change, because once you've set up a construction process, manufacturing in a factory, it's very costly to change all that. It actually costs money. So that's why you almost always have the same models. It's the same at Victoria's Secret. If you look closely at all the big chains, the major generic lingerie brands like Passionata, I'm really talking about the big brands, it's still mostly bras with foam cups for many years. So that's also the interest in making lingerie yourself, because you can change a bit from what you see everywhere. So that's the first reason you feel like it's really complicated, that it requires very specific techniques, whereas in truth, not so much. Second reason, you feel like it requires materials, fabrics, complicated materials with a lot of elastane, stretch lace, and many things that are hard to find. Well, it's the same. It really depends on the models you choose. Know that you can very well make models in woven fabrics. Most of the models I offer in the lingerie patterns and courses at Boudoir Francais are designed and refined to be sewn precisely with woven materials like simple cotton. Because when you're starting out, you're not going to dive into somewhat tricky materials like that. It's better to start with materials like cotton. So similarly, I'm showing you photos so you can see all the models offered at Boudoir Francais and the sewing courses available, where you can see that it's entirely possible to sew a pair of panties, to really start with the basics, the cotton panties, and yes, it's completely possible and also very pretty. The same goes for the bra. You can easily start with a cotton model. Here I present to you the 2 courses and the 2 different bra models at Boudoir Francais, which are actually compatible with cotton or woven fabrics, really to start gently. And it's the same for the elastics. There aren't necessarily super complicated elastics. Sometimes you already have elastics at home that are perfectly suitable. In any case, in the sewing courses, at Boudoir Francais you are obviously guided. I tell you which elastic to take, how to choose it well, and where to find it. And that brings me to the third point, which is that sometimes you're a bit hesitant to sew lingerie because you feel it's complicated to find the supplies, you don't know where to buy them, and you think you need hooks, eyelets, or cups and underwires. So first, with Boudin Francais, we remove all that. We eliminate the superfluous and keep only the essentials, like figure-8 rings. This is used in the industry because, in fact, no one has the same shoulder height. But since you are making it yourself at home, you can completely adjust the shoulders to your body, and you actually don't need to make adjustable straps because you will adjust this shoulder length area directly on yourself. So regarding difficult materials, as I was saying, you can absolutely sew your lingerie from fabric scraps because it doesn't require much material. So actually don't think that you necessarily need materials with elastane, nylon or lycra. All that is very technical, but in truth, a cotton bra is completely possible. In viscose, it's completely possible. All you need is for the material to be strong and soft. Honestly, these are the most important criteria in lingerie. A strong material because lingerie will be worn a lot and heavily used. And a soft material that will not irritate your skin upon contact. And it's the same for lace. You can very well use a beautiful Calais lace, non-stretch. As for the elastics, in truth, the elastics in lingerie, there's just the picotte elastic that you can now find in almost all haberdasheries. And you can also easily find it on Etsy. And the underbust or strap elastics that need to be a bit wider to properly support the bust. Similarly, elastics can honestly be found in any haberdashery. They are not elastics. Don't imagine that they are special lingerie elastics. That's a bit of a marketing argument to sell you things, but in fact, it's just a simple elastic. It's just that, as I was saying, just like with the material, it needs to be soft. Also, for everything that involves hooks, rings, underwires, there you go. If you really want to make bras with underwires, hooks, rings, what I invite you to do, and what I do very often, is to recover. If you don't want to pay for hooks that can sometimes be expensive just for one model, what I often do is recover old underwear from flea markets. We all have an old bra that we no longer wear and keep without knowing why. But you simply recover the rings, the hooks from old lingerie of your own junk, or just at flea markets. I see plenty for €2, sometimes not even €1, sometimes at Maus, flea markets. There are always some lying around, consignment shops, and I see plenty. And you buy that actually, it costs €1, like that. It saves you the shipping costs of €6 to have hooks and underwires delivered. And actually you just recover them, you take them off an old set, and there you have what you need. You have the hooks, you have the adjustment rings, you can even recover the elastics for those who are really determined. So there you go, really there are always solutions. So I hope that with this video I have made lingerie sewing a bit more accessible for you. Obviously, if you want to get into lingerie sewing, don't do it blindly. Take a quality course, a filmed video course, because you don't learn to paint by reading a PDF. It's the same, you don't learn to sew, in my opinion, by reading a PDF. Sewing is a skill that is learned by watching the movements. And if you don't see the movements and all the little things that make a difference, you will never be able to progress. So if you want to take a course to start your first lingerie sewing project, why not? At Boudin Francais, there are panties, bras, shorties. There is also the kimono training, which can be very well done as a robe, a long kimono, or a kimono jacket. So it's really a pattern that can be adapted in many different ways. I'll put the link in the description of this video, and I'll see you soon on Boudin Francais.